Hey, good morning, everybody. It's 10 till 6 on, I don't even know what it is, a Monday morning. I just woke up to use the restroom really quick. I have all the windows open. It's been a beautiful evening, just the fan on. Normally, I sleep with one AC going very low, just enough to cool the place down, but not last night. Really nice night. Hey, so that was a pretty nice sunrise this morning. It's now going on noon. I'm out wandering around, did a few laps in the pool. I'm going to head to do some chores and maybe get some lunch. I wanted to answer a few comments I get often. I'm going to maybe start doing that. I know some people read the comments and then they'll even comment to whoever asked a question, and I think that's great, but not everybody does that, and I seem to get some of the same topics over and over, so I might go over that once in a while. The one thing I will ask is if you leave a comment, I do my best to answer everybody, at least the comments I see. I don't know, what YouTube does not show me. I hold my comments for review. There's some knuckleheads out there that, I don't know, they like to put porn ads or whatever on everybody's channel. So I check at least 3 or 4 times a day on the comments. I'll approve them and then answer them immediately. But it does take a little bit of time and work. I mean, it's not that big a deal. I'm not the guy on YouTube saying, I don't have time to answer my comments. If you take the time to ask a question, I'm going to take the time to answer. However, if I do answer you, don't then ask a follow-up question on my answer. For whatever reason, I get half of those, or if I see you asking a follow-up question in the same thread, I'll go ahead and approve it, and then when I go to answer it, it disappears, and I can't find it. There are thousands of comments, and I'll dig around for 2 or 3 minutes, but it's then just gone. So I'm not continuing the conversation. It's just a little glitch in the system. Start a fresh comment, hopefully on that same video, and I'll see the fresh comment, I'll say 99% of the time. And again, these are just my experiences. I do not pretend to be any kind of expert on anything. I have traveled in and out of Thailand numerous times, have lived here a couple of years, but yeah, don't think I'm going to be the person that says, this is how it is, this is how it shall be, and this is how it's going to be for you. I have no idea. I can just tell you my experience. But I have received the question many times about Onward Travel. Hey, I'm retiring, I'm moving over to Bangkok, I'm coming over on an extended look around Southeast Asia. The question is, do I need an Onward ticket for immigration? They always ask for immigration here in Thailand, and it's a good question. Yes, when you arrive into Thailand, you can be asked, where is your proof of onward travel? Right now, we're at 60 days visa exempt for most countries. It was 30 for the longest time. So yes, when you arrive, they can ask you, where's your proof that 60 days you're out of here? It has never happened to me. However, the airlines are the real issue. I have been asked 3 times, twice in Australia and once on my retirement trip to Thailand. The only time I did not have onward travel because I had never been asked in the past, and I was actually coming on miles and points in Japan first class. So I roll into LAX. Now, I don't know, maybe it was because I had 4 large suitcases, but they said, we are required by Thailand to see proof that you're leaving Thailand within, at the time, 30 days. And I did not have that onward travel. And she said, I'm going to let you go to the lounge, but you need to take care of that. I cannot let you board the plane until we have proof of onward travel. So again, your miles may vary on all of this, but I was also asked in Australia. Now, I had the visa to show them, I don't need the Onward Travel. I have a long-term visa in my passport. But if you do not, I would be prepared for the question. Again, you could get the question at the airline or you could get it at immigration. Would I maybe risk it and be prepared to purchase a $19 or $29 ticket from Bangkok to Kuala Lumpur? I might. I don't want to give out bad advice. If you're going to get a little panicky standing in line at the counter in Atlanta or Heathrow, when asked that question, well then buy the Onward ticket. I mean, there are different things you can do. You can buy a refundable ticket. It's not going to be $29. It'll probably be $229 on Thai Airways. I certainly wouldn't buy a refundable ticket on AirAsia. I don't even know how that would work. You certainly don't speak to anybody at AirAsia. It's all done online. So if you want to go the refundable ticket route, we'll buy that from Thai Airways, British Airways, United, whatever the case might be, and that would be simple to do the refund. There are other services. They basically do the same thing. I think they charge you 12 or 14 US dollars, and they'll buy you a refundable ticket. It's throwawayticket.com or something like that online. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but yes, technically you are supposed to have proof of Onward Travel. Now, I also apologize at the start here. I'm from the US. I'm a California guy, retired, came over to Thailand, so I don't have any experience or knowledge on banking from the UK or Australia. I can only speak to my experiences and what I've learned. Many of things I will guess, will also transfer to the UK or Australia. Things like, I'll get the question often on, should I bring my US cell phone, keep it going over here in Thailand? I apologize. I don't know if the answers are the same with Australia, the UK, the EU. I have no idea. I can just tell you what I know. But as far as bringing a US phone here, I did do that. You have to be a little careful. I've brought it up in other videos, and I get the question at least once a week. I want to go to Mint Mobile or these different plans that are really inexpensive. They're like $10 or $15 a month. I don't have any experience with that. I have T-Mobile. It's one of the biggies in the US. T-Mobile, Verizon. I'm not sure if Sprint's there anymore. I think they merged in. But the T-Mobile Magenta 55, so it's 55 US dollars. However, I kind of lucked into a military plan. I was in the military in the 80s, but I think the 20-something person that was helping me on the phone just kind of slid me into an active duty military fund. The issue with a cell phone, I've been told twice at T-Mobile and Verizon, if you're going to have a US cell tower, it's some kind of federal regulation that it has to hit a US cell tower, a US cell plan I meant. It has to hit a US cell tower. I had Verizon tell me once a year. I had T-Mobile tell me every 2 years is our limit. However, you might start getting hate emails at the 1 year mark. Hey, what's going on here? We're seeing Bangkok cell towers every day, and that does not make us happy. So just keep in mind, if it's Mint Mobile or Google Voice, any of these plans, if you want to stay with a US-based number, and I think it's important and makes your life easier to keep that US number. Every day, every week, I'll get OTP verifications from this bank or that bank or this website, or we see you've logged in on a new laptop. We're sending an OTP code to your phone, verify the number, and I get that from Google all the time. Can you do all that with a Thai phone? I don't have the experience. I don't know. I've been told by my bank, obviously I have a Thai phone, no, we're not gonna, it was Fidelity, my Fidelity Investments. They told me we will not send an OTP to a foreign phone number. So do I keep the US phone? Yes, I do. Are there issues in bringing a US phone over here? never going back to the United States if that's your plan. I know many people think, well, I'll be back in the US at least once a year. I thought that same thing. I'm 2 years and 2 months, and I haven't been back since. Now my phone is working. If you're a veteran, I would certainly try to slip in on one of those active duty plans. Obviously they're designed for sailors in Japan or, Army members in Europe that may not be able to travel back to the US until their 3 or 4 year hitch is over and out of country. But it's helpful for me in keeping this US phone alive here in Thailand. I'm sure I can find a way to sort out the OTPs for banking and all. I know a lot of them you can do through email. Probably the most important reason I keep that US number, for one, I've had that same phone number for 30 years or at least 25. So everybody has my number. The other issue is Wi-Fi calling, WhatsApp, the Line apps, all these different internet-based phone apps. Not everybody is down with all that. So many, especially older folks, I have a lot of relatives, my parents, they're in their 80s, and they don't want to deal with any of that. So I just have them shoot me a text whenever, they'd like to chat. Usually it's like at 2:30 in the morning, but that's fine, I'm a night owl. I'll get a text and then I'll call them back on Wi-Fi calling, and it works for free, just like you're using WhatsApp. I basically just use my US phone as a computer, keep it in the apartment, have data roaming turned off so there's no accidental slipping from Wi-Fi calling. You were dropped and we went on to roaming and now it's 25 cents a minute. None of that. Just have all that turned off, have it on your home router, and it works perfect. Is that worth $50 a month? You'll have to make that decision. When I'm walking up my street here, this is Sukhumvit Soi 26, and the reason for all the traffic is it's a shortcut to go between the busy Ramaphore Street and Sukhumvit. So yeah, that's the only downside. I have a beautiful tree-lined street here, but it's busy 90% of the time. And here's the DoubleTree, a Hilton property. It's actually attached to the Hilton over on the next Soi 24. I'm gonna duck into the lobby, get a little blast of air conditioning. And if you do stay in this area, right across the street from the DoubleTree is John's Bar, Queen Bee. Fun little place, catch a band, grab a beer. All right, so I have a little Scooby-Doo jazz music going in the background. Another question I'll get asked often is, do I have to pay for the expense of a multiple entry stamp attached to my non-O visa? This is mostly for non-O for retirement. I don't have experience with other visas. I don't know if you have a education visa, say, if you can make that a multi-entry. Don't know the answer to that question. But as far as the non-O, I would strongly recommend to pay the $100 US. I know it's $100, but when you set up your visa, just do it. Get the multi-entry. If I'm not mistaken, and I very well may be, I think the multi-entry goes for the duration of the visa. In other words, if you get your visa January 1st and June 1st, you decide, hey, I kind of need that multi-entry. I've came down here and got a single departure twice now, and forget about the break-even point and all. It's just the hassle of the whole thing. The multi-entry, you can come and go as you please for the entire year. I mean, travel out of the country every 5 days, and it's not an issue. There was some misinformation I've spoke about in a couple of videos because I couldn't believe the guy said it. I will oftentimes say, be careful what you hear online, Facebook, even on YouTube, even on my channel. Just verify everything. But this guy, for whatever reason, had it stuck in his head that a multi-entry is not worth it because you can only come and go 3 times in a year. He said something like that, which makes absolutely zero sense. Multi-entry, you can come and go for the duration of the visa. But that's the issue. Unless things have changed from what I understand, and I suggest get the multi-entry the same day you get the visa. In other words, January 1st visa, then January 1st multi-entry. If you wait till June 1st, that visa you're paying the same $100 for the multi-entry will only be good for 6 months, the duration of the visa. From what I understand, of course, I could be wrong, but I think that's how I understood the facts, and it kind of makes sense. They're not going to give you 12 months of multi-entry and your visa expires in 6 months with the understanding they think you're going to extend it. So just count on getting that multi-entry. It's handy to have, not only for making little side trips and that kind of thing. More important is if a loved one were to pass away tomorrow, the last thing on your mind is dealing with your visa. If you do not have a multi-entry and just leave the country, your visa is gone if you don't at least get a single entry permit. Now, I've been told it's rather simple to do at the airport, but again, if mom passes away or whatever the case might be and you're rushing off on the next plane, that extra layer of hassle to find the multi-entry guy and hope he's not at lunch and on, I just wouldn't do it. Even if you're not planning on traveling, I would strongly suggest to get the multi-entry for that reason alone. But there's no reason to not take some nice affordable side trips from Thailand. It's less than $100 to go a dozen places. I mean, get out there and look around. And I'll get the question all the time. I got it today on I like your videos and all, but why do you rent? I mean, isn't that just a waste of time? Can't you go buy an affordable condo? Yes and no. I rent. It's just so cheap. I think I'm paying 19,000 baht, which depending on the baht, it goes up and down. Oftentimes that's below 500 US dollars. Right now it's certainly above, but it's still affordable. I really like my condo. I stayed there for a year and I just signed another 2-year lease this year. And I looked into the sales price. Every rental unit, 90% of them also appear to be for sale. It was 175,000 US, which of course does not sound like a crazy amount of money compared to a condo in San Diego, Miami, New York City. But when you compare it to renting for $500, I mean, you'll have to do that math. Even if the rent goes up to say $700, if for some reason I'm there 10 years from now, I doubt the rent's going to be 1,000 US dollars in Thai baht, of course. But let's say it goes up 20%. It's the break even. It's still kind of a long ways into the future to hit that 170,000 US. Plus, I really don't want to be tied down as much as I like the place. I don't know if Bangkok is where I'm going to want to be 5 years from now. I've been here 2 years and I'm still loving it, but it is a busy, crazy, chaotic city. At some point, I might want to slow down and head to a place like Hua Hin or Koh Samui. And I know I can sell it and on, but you can't look at Bangkok or Thailand as California real estate. It's just not going to be as easy to buy and sell a condo as it would be in the US. I mean, I sold my last house in one day, and even on that one day, I think I received 40 offers and sold it for more than asking price. It doesn't work that way over here. That I know. Again, I'm no expert in real estate, just from what I'm told from friends and all. And even in my building, I have a nice unit that kind of is on a high floor, and I look down into other units. I've seen 3 or 4 units that I can think of stay vacant that entire year and a half I've been in my building. I don't know what the circumstances are, but to have a vacant unit in a nice building in San Diego would be very, very unusual. And I'll get all kinds of visa questions. I keep trying to cover my bases, but I think it's important for me to say and for you to realize, other people you're listening to on YouTube, we're not experts on any of these things. I don't have all the answers on visa situations and all. I can give you a place to start I can tell you what happened to me, and then you're going to have to do your research. But I'll be asked all the time on the 800,000 baht requirement for depositing that money into a Thai bank account to cover your basis on a non-O for retirement. I believe it's 400,000 if you're married to a Thai person, and again, I don't even know if that's a marriage visa. It probably is, compared to getting a non-O for retirement and being married. Don't have the answer to that question. But as far as the 800,000, people will ask, how long do I have to tie that money up? And the answer is basically that 800,000 has to stay in that account. It's not a matter of showing the 800,000 and pulling it out 2 weeks later. It kind of used to work that way years and years ago, and they've tightened up on those regulations. I don't know the exacts because I don't bother to push it that close. I have over 800,000 in that Thai account, whatever it is, a million, or I don't even know what's in there. I mean, I use that account. Maybe it's 1.5 million, and whenever I get close to 1 million, I top it back up, so I just never drop below that magic 800,000 number. However, if you want to push things, I think you're allowed to drop to 400,000 a number of months after you get the visa, and then it has to be in a number of months before you apply for the extension. In other words, you'll get the visa, say, January 1st, 2024. On January 1st, 2025, you're not getting another visa. You're just extending the visa you have. So that 800 has to be in for a certain period of time. Now, there are agents that can do a little magic, and if you don't have the 800,000 or you don't want to tie it up, you'll have to do the math on whether it's worth paying them. And I never went that route, so I don't know what they charge. Let's say it's a couple thousand US dollars to set up the account. Well, come time to extend, you're now going to have to pay that guy, don't know the figure, let's call it 500 US dollars, to then use his money and not tie up your 800,000. So again, you're going to have to do the math on, well, I don't want to lose 4% interest I could be earning on that whopping 22 or 23,000 US dollars. So I'll pay this guy $10,000 over the next 10 or 15 years I plan to stay here. Keep in mind that 800,000, it's your money. Yes, it's tied up, but many visas, including some visas they have here in Thailand, the elite visas, that's for folks that are not over 50. They don't have a lot of options. I know things are changing, but let's say 2 years ago, you did not have a lot of options. So the decision was, do you want to pay X thousands of dollars? And you have an elite visa. Yes, you're 35, you're 42, whatever the case might be, but you can legally stay here with a long-term visa. And to many people, yes, that's worth it to me. When you look at the math and break it down over 5-10 years, it's X amount a year, and I'm saving that amount in the first month and a half of rent. So putting the 800,000 away, that's your money. It's not that big a problem to me. It's nothing I'm losing sleep over. However, many guys are, asking me questions about, I'd rather have that in my US account and not tie it up. There are other visas you can get in the US, maybe the non-OA, where you show the money in a US bank. However, you're then going to have to come to Thailand, and depending on your age and health conditions, you're going to have a Thai health policy that might be $500 a month. I don't know. It might be $200 if you're 50 and have never had any medical issues. If you're pushing 70 and have had a couple of heart attacks, I'd plan on paying closer to $500 a month. So you'll have to figure all that out. It's just a simple math equation. Oh, and the reason I brought the health insurance question up, and yes, I believe it's a good idea to have health insurance with wherever you are, but many people make the decision to quote unquote self-insure, and that's probably going to be a problem if you have a massive heart attack and need open heart surgery. Even in Thailand, I'm sure that's going to be, closer to $100,000, or I don't know. Even if it's $60,000, that's a lot of cash to self-insure if you're worried about interest on $800,000. But as of now, anyhow, when you receive the non-O for retirement in Thailand, you do not need to show health insurance. Getting a non-OA in abroad, you do. Now, getting a non-O, I don't know how that works as far as getting a non-O, say, in the US. I know one person who did it. I think he said you can get the non-O. In his case, it was Washington, D.C., but it's good for the first 90 days, then you extend it for 1 year. That's not a problem. So you got your 15 months. His issue was you then had to extend it here in the Kingdom of Thailand. So he would have to then show the 800,000 Thai baht. So in other words, you save yourself 15 months of getting that crazy high interest, I guess, on 800,000 in U.S. account, at least for the first 15 months. Now, again, all of this is subject to change. Even that elite visa I talked about, I think it went up by 40 or 60% just overnight. So everything can change, including the visa I have. And I fully expect it will change at some point. But I do have the 800,000 in that account. And when they've made changes in the past, let's say tomorrow they say, you need 1.2 million in that account today. Hopefully I'll be grandfathered in and the 800,000 will be fine. I think that's how they did things in the past, so who knows. Striped t-shirts, it's some kind of business retreat or something. But everybody's in the same uniform. They match the pillows here. I don't know if that's a coincidence. Maybe maybe they work for the Hilton properties. Who knows? Now, one other question I'll get all the time, and kind of a follow-up to the 800,000 baht, is should I use an agent, a visa agent, in Thailand? And it's, oh no, this says Dior. They're with Dior Cosmetics, I guess. Anyhow, I was sorry about going down that rabbit hole. Using a visa agent, it's kind of like pick your team. Now, I did not use a visa agent, not because I didn't have the money. I was fully planning on doing so. In fact, I told myself I'm pretty good at paperwork. I'm fairly organized. I'm going to come over and attempt to do it on my own. If there's any blowback or any bit of hassle, yeah, I'll run right off to the agent and give him the whatever it is, 2,000 US, and take care of it. There are different types of agents. There are agents that'll basically do the paperwork, set up a bank account for you. Now, I did use an agent to open my bank account. That's somewhat tricky, and it's well worth paying $100, $150 to have that taken care of in 10 minutes rather than walking into 10 banks like I did and being told, nope, you cannot open a bank account without a long-term visa, but you cannot get a long-term visa without opening a bank account. The solution to that is probably, if you absolutely, want to get around that problem, get your long-term visa if it's a non-OA or even a non-O abroad, and then come into Thailand and open the bank account at that point. But I didn't do that. I rolled in visa exempt and, with not even a tourist stamp, just a 30-day stamp in my passport. That's how I tried to open an account. And the only thing I was offered was, yeah, we'll let you open it if you buy life insurance through the bank. And I'm like, all right, how much is the life insurance? Well, it would amount it to 75 US dollars. And I'm kind of glad I didn't go that route. I almost did, because I'm telling myself, well, I'm saving $25 from the agent. However, I've since found out, and I probably should have asked more questions about the life insurance, it's $75 a year. So, annually you'll be buying that policy, and that's not worth it to me. So pick sides on whether you want to use an agent or not. I did a very detailed video on how I got my non-O for retirement. It's a pain in the butt. Half the comments will be, this is exactly why I'm paying for an agent. And, maybe if you could have afforded an agent, you wouldn't have had to go through all that. And once again, people really, I don't know, they just take sides and want to point fingers on using an agent, don't use an agent. Some people take a kind of an elitist attitude that I can afford to take an agent, so that's the best, or use an agent, so that's the best money I ever spent. Sorry, it's getting a little hot out here. I'm mumbling. It's time for lunch. But I don't look at it that way. I wanted to understand the process, and when you use an agent, just be very careful. They're doing everything by the book in Bangkok. If they were to take your passport and run off to their brother-in-law's office up in Pracho Karikan or whatever the case might be, you might have an issue when you go to extend down in Bangkok with a different agent or trying to do it yourself. You just want to be on the up and up. And with all that being said, I would 100% recommend using an agent if you're not comfortable with paperwork, and especially here in Bangkok. That Chiang Watana, the main immigration, is no joke. It's loud. There are thousands of people in there yelling and screaming and upset, and there's every 5 seconds B12, C52 as you're trying to listen to your immigration officer speak through a sheet of plexiglass, and the stories you hear about every agent wants things did in a different way. That's true, and I have firsthand knowledge of that. I've been down to immigration now, I don't know how many times, let's say 10, and one agent will say, I'm a pretty organized guy, so I hand them everything they need in triplicate, in blue ink. They don't want black ink. It looks like a photocopy. It's in blue ink. I've signed my name at the bottom of every page like I was instructed to by my first immigration officer years ago. And this last year, that immigration officer said everything looks fine, the paperwork's in order, but don't deface each paper next time by signing your name on the bottom. So he had the exact opposite take of the first agent. If that's going to frustrate you, pay that agent. Just sit there quietly as they all speak in Thai and get things taken care of. Myself, I could care less about, you don't want signatures on it. Well, I pulled out a prepared copy in blue ink. Yes, I took the time to fill out the 2 little forms. It took about 10 whole minutes in blue ink, just in case I needed an extra copy. And I said, well, here you go. I have copies of all that without the signatures on the bottom. He was a little bit amazed. No, that's okay. Just next time, don't do that. And people will ask me all the time, there is a 65,000 baht option instead of keeping the 800,000 in the bank, whatever that is, depending on the Thai baht. I'm going to speak in US dollars. Let's call it 1,800 US a month. My social security check is X amount, so can I just move that into my Thai bank account and not keep the 800,000 in there? From my understanding, and I've been told by 3 or 4 different visa agents, that's exactly what I did when I set up my first non-O. I had the 800,000, call it $1 million, in the bank. I then said, I am going to move, and I didn't do it at 65. I mean, you have to be careful. The baht fluctuates. It was as high as 37 to 1 recently, and I think today it's down closer to 33 to 1. So you can't just say when it's 37 to 1, it's $1,602, so that's when I'm going to move each month. Yeah, you might not be at 65 when the baht drops down to 34 to 1. So just keep all that in mind. Anyhow, I figured on if 1,700 is about the 65,000 a month, I'll send 2,000 each month, and that's what I did. However, I was not happy with the exchange rate. Even on $2,000, you're forced to do it every month, January, February, March. They don't care what the exchange rate is. So I was forced to move money over at 34 to 1, 34 and a half, 35.0. When the baht did go up to 37 to 1, I moved over like 20,000 US dollars. And that's what I'm planning on doing moving forward, is just moving money over when you can't time the market, you can't time the baht. But what goes down kind of comes back up. 2 or 3 months later, sometimes 2 weeks later. So don't, if you have a choice. I mean, I wouldn't lose a lot of sleep over, I'm ready to retire today and the bot's at 34. Maybe I had to wait 6 months to retire and see if the bot goes back up. No, just if it cost you $1,500 extra dollars, who cares? It's the cost of doing business. You'll make that up in your first couple of months of paying rent. Get on over here. Don't even worry about it. But moving forward, yeah, you want to try to move money over when things are a little bit higher. And that's what I've somewhat been successful at doing. So you'll make your decision on that. But the bottom line is, if you're going to go with the 65,000 baht versus keeping 800,000 in the bank, I was told they want to see 12 months of that before they approve it. In other words, you're going to have the 800,000 in the bank or hire an agent for at least that first year. Let's say you don't have the 800,000. You're going to have to hire an agent, use that person's money to show the 800,000, then put $1,800, whatever the 65,000 is. Again, don't cut it close, because if you miss it by $1 for 1 month, that's not 12 months of proof when you go back the next year. But let's assume you get the 65,000 in there for 12 months. In year 2, when you go for the extension, you can then switch over to that method. And I also get a lot of questions on the 800,000. Can I at least avoid Wise transfer fees or international wire transfer fees on that large sum of money and bring it over cash or in a cashier's check? And again, to the best of my knowledge, the simple answer is no. I've been told over and over and over, you need to show a clear path of that 800,000 coming from abroad, in my case, the US. Now, Wise Transfer app is very popular. I think it's called Wise Transfer app or Transfer Wise. I don't know. It's a very popular way to get money from abroad into your Thai bank account. I've used it. I even did a video on why I don't like Wise, and now I've kind of turned and I do use Wise. I mean, it's a constant learning process. The reason I said I wasn't a big fan of Wise, I have Navy Federal Credit Union, and they charge a very reasonable flat rate fee to transfer any amount of money. It's 25 US dollars. The catch is they do not give you the best exchange rate. So let's say today, I'll make it up. Here in Thailand, it's about 35 to 1 US dollar. Wise might offer 35 to 1. Navy Federal Credit Union might offer 34.5. So you're missing out on a half a point or a half a percentage there of a baht to use them, and 25 bucks. Now, Wise just raised their fees too. I mean, it was, I can't remember. I want to say I transferred 10,000 US dollars with Wise, and the fee was 70 or 75 US dollars. It wasn't 25. Now, I did get a better rate, and I kind of did some math and said, yeah, that's kind of worth it. However, they've raised the fees, and I keep getting these emails saying, hey, you haven't used Wise in a while. Just keep in mind our fees went up a little bit. For instance, the last 10,000 you sent over, it's going to be $139 now fee. So you'll have to do the math on if it's worth it to pay $139 or $25 and get a worse rate if you can find a bank that has a flat rate fee. They're harder to come by. I know my Chase was, it was pretty high. It was higher than Wise rate wise. It was a percentage of what you're sending plus a $50 fee, I think. Again, I don't have these things memorized. Just keep in mind, you'll read all day long, Wise is the only way to go. Yes and no. I would say Wise is great when you're sending over your $1,300 Social Security check. That's going to be, again, I'll make up the numbers, 11 US dollars in Wise fees, where Navy Federal might charge 25 and give you a slightly worse rate. So it's just all a math problem. Oh, but I ended up going down a Wise rabbit hole there. Getting back to the 800,000. I was told and asked for the receipt at immigration showing a clear path of that money coming from abroad. What happened in my case was I brought 10,000 US cash, actually a little bit more. I mean, you can bring more cash than that. I think you're supposed to report at customs if you're bringing in more than 10,000. It's not that big a deal. It's probably just a form you need to fill out if you wanted to bring the entire 800,000. But what the problem is, I brought the money over in hopes it would help me open a bank account. Like, hey, look at me with all these crisp $100 bills. They all still said, yeah, get out of here or go hire an agent. And then when I came back, it was the person at the bank that told me, you know, you need to have that 800,000 come from an international wire transfer for immigration to count the money. She says, I'll be glad to deposit this 10,000 cash into your account, but it's not going to count for that 800,000. And that's exactly what I had to do. I put that 10 grand in my bank account, and then I had to send an additional, whatever it was, 22,000 US, the 800,000 Thai baht, wired from abroad to meet the requirements for the visa. So the simple answer is it has to come from abroad. Wise Transfer app is a UK-based company. I didn't feel comfortable using them for that initial 800,000 because I'm a US guy. I didn't want any questions. Why is your money coming from a UK bank? I've since learned from other people they don't care about that, apparently. I know some guys from the US that went to immigration. They sent their money over through the UK-based Wise, and it was not an issue. So again, do your homework on that. I don't think it's an issue, but I certainly don't want to pass out any bad advice. And money, saving money, it's important to everybody. I probably get the most comments on these topics. Other people, when I'll talk about Wise and transferring money and all, they say, well, I've seen Citibank and Bank of America over there, so I'm just going to hit that Citibank with my Citibank ATM card and I won't be transferred or charged anything. And that's just not the case. I've never did it, but from what I understand, the Citibank branch you see over there in Asok, it's there for business purposes, for dealings with the U.S. Embassy and international businesses. It's not there for an American to walk up with his U.S. Citibank card and take out the equivalent of 300 Thai baht with a zero ATM fee, just like you're hitting a Citibank in the U.S. I believe you can use the ATM machine there, but it will be no different than using an ATM machine at Bangkok Bank or these type deals. And that's another way to go. It's all just a math problem. You'll have to decide, I'm not going to have a Thai bank account. I'm not going to have the visa that requires the 800,000. I'm just going to use my Charles Schwab free refund all the ATM fees at a Thai bank account. And all that's fine until it stops working. And as far as the Schwab card, I hate to be a pessimist about that because it's been working for a long time. I mean, probably going on 10 years now, the Charles Schwab has been refunding ATM fees. However, I've read reports on different travel websites I have been monitoring for the past 2 decades. I just, like these airline miles and points sites. They're saying people are getting shut down in Mexico and Panama basically for putting a pension check, call it a Social Security check, whatever the case is, into that Charles Schwab account, then just draining it out however many times it takes in a month. Let's say it's 3 times, so that might cost 12, 15 US dollars that Schwab has to refund Banco de Panama. Well, I guess they're getting a little tired of that with a customer that keeps 50 US dollars in the bank, and they're really not a profitable, it's not a profitable business dealing. So I think at some point, old Charlie Schwab's going to say, we kind of want to see a few more zeros on your bank account to kick those ATM fees back to you. There are other options, including My Navy Federal. It's not Charles Schwab, it's not unlimited, but they do refund 10 $10 in the flagship checking, which I have, of fees each month. And that's enough for me. I just use the ATM card when I roll into a new country. If it's Malaysia or Australia, I'll hit the ATM for a few $100, and generally I use my US credit card anytime I can. So oftentimes that $100 or $200 is all I need of local currency. That bank might charge me, call it $3 US equivalent, and my bank might charge me, I don't know what they charge. Navy Federal, it's all affordable. I think they charge me 1% plus $2 or something. So whatever, they give me back at least the Navy Federal charge. Now, Charles Schwab, I think, refunds you what the other bank charges as well. Navy Federal does not do that. But again, I'm not living at an ATM machine. Now here's the beautiful Sukhumvit Soi 24. I've said it before, it really reminds me of a high-end New York apartment street right on Central Park maybe. I've been asked a bunch of times, hey, I'm also an airline miles and points guy. Is there any way I can pay my rent in Thailand with an American Airlines or American Express credit card? And the simple answer is no, unless you're using Airbnb. Airbnb, you certainly can. Is it worth it to me? No. I like to sign a 12-month lease and live in one of these nice units for $500. My same unit, Airbnb, $800 maybe. Even if it's $700, it's not really worth it to me to put that small amount of money. I guess that's one of my higher bills, $500 a month, but you'll just have to do the math on that. There are some service departments that, in doing my research, looking across the way here, the Oakwood, I'm not sure the answer on the Oakwood. I know they have an Oakwood Suites, which I think is more a hotel, and just over my left shoulder is the Oakwood Residence, which is a service department. You don't sign a lease. You're going to pay more whenever you don't sign a lease. So if you roll into the Oakwoods, again, if it should cost $450 or $550, it's going to be $750 or $800 without a lease. But many people don't want that lease, or they're just rolling over for 3 or 4 months at a time. Again, this is all nickel and dime stuff. I'm geared towards living here full time, having a lease, staying in the same place. I'm trying to anyhow. Well, I am for 3 years at a nice affordable rate, and then I'll go from there. So yeah, just one person recently, he kind of asked the question in a way, can I pay my landlord a little extra? And in other words, perhaps the 3% fee that Visa charges, hey, I'll just give my landlord that if he'll accept my credit card for payment on my rent. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe you can find a landlord who also owns a business, and yeah, he'll say, put that rent onto my bakery business. But even then, most business people are probably going to want to separate their bakery business from their rental landlord business. And this is looking up Soi 24 at the end there where it says IMAX. That's the M Quartier Mall. And right on the left here is the Emporium Mall, and in between the two is the Prompong BTS. Now, there are websites in the US. I briefly looked into them. What they do is, it's not 3%. Of course, they still have to pay Visa the 3% charge. So I want to say 4.5%, something like that. Again, I didn't look into this hard, and that was a couple of years ago. Basically, what they do is, how much is your rent? Who's your landlord? Give us all the addresses. Give us 5 days to mail them a check, physical check. I think they started getting into the business of, if we can get their bank information, we can get into their bank, within 24 hours. Basically, what they were doing was, you pay this outfit, and again, there's a level of trust involved in all this. You pay them the rent, and then they send the rent to your landlord. Now, the 10 minutes of research said we will not send it abroad. We don't want to get into, and I can understand that. A U.S. company, it's probably hard enough with problems rather than mixing in Thailand or the Philippines or sending this money to the Ukraine. So I don't think they do it, but you can look into a different service like that. Again, you'll have to do the math on paying an additional, say, 5 or 6% over your rent is worth it to rack up some extra airline miles. Now, they also have services to pay your at least U.S. taxes and state taxes. Now, I've certainly did that over the years. Sometimes doing the math on getting, say, 3 credit cards and making sure for whatever reason you owe $10,000 or $15,000 of U.S. tax. There's ways to make yourself owe money if it's changing the different allotments on your check and all. Yeah, sometimes that's worth it. It might cost you $200, $300, $400 in fees, but you might get a first-class ticket that's worth $10,000 out of the deal. I'm gonna take a little sit down in the shade. More than 3 or 4 people have asked me, I probably get this question once a month, when I went to ask about my international transfers, they asked me, do I want the money sent in US dollars? Again, this is all US based. These are the questions I received. Or Thai baht. I would assume it works the same with a UK bank or Australia. They're going to ask the option, how do you want it sent over? In your local currency? That is what I recommend. The issue with having, say, Navy Federal transfer it into Thai baht and then send it to Bangkok Bank, they're not going to give you a great exchange rate, or, you know, they're going to have to take a little off the top for fees, that kind of thing. So just have them send it in US dollars. The problem with that, and the reason people love Wise, is it guarantees the rate. In other words, you're looking at X amount today. I don't want to get into a big Wise tutorial because I'm not an expert on it. There are 2 ways to do it. You set up your Wise account, you then put money into that account. Let's say it's 5,000 US dollars, and you just have it sitting there in Wise. Other people have said, well, I don't want to do that. It's not an FDIC insured bank. Well, yeah, it's not a US company. It from what I understand, it's the equivalent of what FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance, whatever, in the US. In other words, whatever the magic number is, we insure up to, I think it's 100,000 US for a bank account. And Wise, I wouldn't worry too much about them stealing your money. Again, don't take my word for it, do your research. But if you leave the money in Wise, it's more an immediate transfer when you then want to pull the trigger, say, hey, the baht is looking great. We're all sitting here at the pub talking about it. Yeah, I'm going to move over 1,000 baht immediately, and it's just that. It's sent over immediately. Even if you don't have money in your Wise account and you have your US account linked to Wise, smaller amounts, whatever that magic number is, I don't know because it's never happened to me. We'll be sitting at the pub and everybody will transfer money over. I just did 2,000 instant. I just did 1,500 instant. And then me, I just did 10,000. It says my money will be here in 5 days. Now I get it. They need to, you think with the internet and all, they can verify, well, he has that money in his US account, so yeah, not a big deal. Maybe we won't do it instant, but we'll do it by close of business tomorrow. No, the reason I'm saying all this is if you're going to set up Wise and come over here and send over 1 million Thai baht, it's not going to get here instantly. What you might have to do, if that's what you're planning to do, and oftentimes there are time issues as far as rolling into Thailand, opening that bank account. I don't want to get into all that. You can watch my video on opening that non-O for retirement, but basically you have to open the bank account, put the money in the bank. You can then go to immigration. You'll get the 90-day visa. Then at the 60-day mark, the money is quote-unquote seasoned. It's been in the bank 60 days. So in day 61, you go in and then apply for the 1-year extension. So your first visa is 90 days plus 1 year. Your next extension is 12 months. Only the first visa is 15 months. The following year is 1 year. But not a big deal. But what I'm getting at is, let's say you come over here and it takes you 10 days to open a bank account, and okay, I've opened the bank account, now I need to put the Wise money in. I wasn't counting on it taking 7 or 8 days because it's a large amount and there's the Queen's birthday or a holiday in the US, or you just don't count on that money rolling over instantly. Now, had you put it in Wise, maybe the second you open a Thai bank account, within 24 hours you can get it into that Thai account. I don't have the answer for that. All I can tell you is I did 2 large Wise transfers, one for 10,000 and one for 15,000, and both of them took, I don't have it memorized, at least 5 days. I think one was 4 days and one was 6. Now, I've had a lot of questions on shipping Amazon or what's the other biggie, eBay over here to Thailand. To be honest, I haven't did that. There are Lazada and Shopee and different things that are like Amazon. I mean, they're not as good. Trust me, I like Amazon too, and they keep flashing all over my account. Free shipping to Thailand on many items if you spend $35. The issue isn't the shipping or waiting 10 days to receive the item. The issue is customs. It will oftentimes say at Amazon, we are collecting the correct amount of duty or import fees into Thailand, so you should be okay. But I have heard 2 or 3 times from different buddies, they got jammed up and received a notice, come down to the post office, and one time my buddy ordered 2 pair of Levi's, whatever it was. Levi's are expensive over here. So let's say he saved $50 buying 2 pair of Levi's on Amazon compared to the Levi's shop here, and paid $20 in customs fees supposedly to Amazon. You're still $30 ahead. Sounds good. The problem is when the Levi's showed up, he got a notice in the mailbox, come to the post office, you owe customs, and they wanted another whatever it was in Thai baht, equivalent to another $40 or $50. And you have to pay it. There's no arguing. I think he said he was going to send an appeal to Amazon and see if he could get some kind of credit or something. Whether he bothered doing that or not, I don't know. All I'll say is this is Thailand, so you just have to be flexible on those things. There's no free lunch. There's no free way to get your money over here to Thailand. There's ways to get around things if it's with a Charles Schwab card, or other people will comment, well, I keep my Thai bank account in US funds or in Canadian funds, and then I transfer them into Thai baht when the rate is high and all. That's all good and fine, but there are still fees, from what I understand, to get that money from the Canadian account into the Thai account. The one guy, I don't think he had did it yet, and he was not being argumentative, but kind of a little bit, you don't know what you're talking about. It's free, you know, it's free to get my money from Canada to that Thai bank, and then I just transfer it from Canadian money into Thai money whenever the rate is high. And I'm just kind of listening to it all and saying, maybe, you know something I don't, but it sounds like you're still in Vancouver and you haven't did it yet. So we'll see how it works out. The bottom line is there's no free lunch. I think I already said that. I wouldn't worry too much about losing $100 here or $40 in customs there compared to what the price of a pair of Levi's is in Thailand. Just make your life simple and buy the pair of Levi's in Thailand compared to waiting 3 weeks and maybe even a month and finding out it's been held up at customs at the airport because you owe $19 more. That all just kind of sounds like a hassle to save $30. You're saving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on your rent each month. So maybe you lose a little bit of money on not making daily purchases at Amazon like we used to in the US. It's just all a numbers game. I get it. I like to earn airline miles on everything. I would love to earn them on paying my rent here in Thailand, but I'm not going to stay at Airbnb and pay $300 more a month to be able to do that. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully some of these frequent comments I get from other people will answer somebody's future question, and there'll be more videos to come. Have a great afternoon from Bangkok, Thailand. We'll see you later.